Hello and a pleasant welcome to another fresh edition of the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television Network on Channel 21. I am Hassan Kuruma. Our inspirational quote for today is from Jim Morrison, who once asserted that whosoever controls the media controls the mind of the people. Top stories in today's edition: the government of Sierra Leone through the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, with partnership with Africa Union, Speak Up Africa, and Partnership to End Malaria, has officially launched the Zero Malaria Starts with Me Media Coalition in Sierra Leone at the Swiss Hotel in Freetown. Also coming up in today's edition, as the leadership of Legal Link and Citizen Advocacy Network at a joint news conference recommended some action points to address the spirits of lawlessness and indiscipline across the country. Ibrahim Foster, the father of Ali Foster, who was allegedly shot at the residence of Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Lai Lawrence Lima, has called on government and other philanthropic organizations to ensure justice and render support to his economic livelihood, as Ali Foster is the only breadwinner of the family. Also in today's edition, the founder and chief executive officer of Shalom Water Company, Victor Hamusa Kagbo, has said that the establishment of water company is not only to provide purified water for Congo Town community, but to address the issue of unemployment among young people through job creation. He made this statement while officially commissioning the Shalom Water Company at Congo Town on Saturday, 8 February 2020. Now, the Independent Media Commission, in conjunction with Sierra Leone Association of Journalists, LAJ, has reached an agreement on the regulation of media houses and journalists in the country. We shall be having in the studio one of the commissioners of IMC, who is Victor Suma. He will be talking to us on their activities and as well what are their plans to make sure that the media is a very fine place to work on. The Good Morning Show is proudly sponsored by Ukel Commercial Bank.
Say you want to talk to me.
Yes, my brother. I get stress, bank stress.
Can you do me right?
So go put money in my bank, no problem. So go put money in my bank, no problem. I go to map in a line all day just for put money and pull money. And the loan system, look me business, they go down the drain. You know, get loan system. Me, I just tired.
Now that's the stress you.
Yes, my brother. Now me stress standing.
Let that not be stress. Because my old bank was the bank when I was Ukel Commercial Bank. When I the award-winning bank for 2018, where they don't win so many awards inside Freetown and even serve outside Salon. Yes, they even recognize them at the international world as they win one of the most prestigious awards from Nigeria as the best corporate bank na Salon. They don't even count financial inclusion, which it means say they want to involve everybody in a Salon. Never mind the kind of business way they do. If na pepper self they sell na market or any other petty business they do. And even self they don't left their comfort zone for going to bonds. When at the island, where you don't say when people that avoid for do banking business, they don't go there for let the people themselves they part of the financial inclusion within the bank. And self they get plenty other products where you go able to meet you day-to-day needs. Then gets like the keke account. When for them boys and when they ride the keke them. And self then gets the Osusu account. Then get MasterCard, other platform that they will take money like SimCorp. When a new banking system where they don't count the business now inside your phone they do you know, you don't need for go you need to snap that long queue. As then at the award-winning bank, they want to maintain that standard and they want to satisfy the customers. Let them make sure say everybody can inside the bank system. Let nobody not left out. Now for can't open account to them, it's simple. You 50,000, 100,000, you're okay.
Thank you, my brother. I need for one go now Ukel Commercial Bank right now. I beg no drink so that they go this na good news.
Ukel Commercial Bank, mama. Joy Ukel Commercial Bank, bank with Ukel Commercial Bank #1. Bank with Ukel Commercial Bank #1.
Many thanks to Ukel Commercial Bank for being our sponsor of the Star Good Morning Show. You're still watching the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television Network on Channel 21. I am Hassan Kurma. We go in for our first story this morning. Now, the government of Sierra Leone through the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, with partnership with Africa Union, Speak Up Africa, and Partnership to End Malaria, has officially launched the Zero Malaria Start with Me Media Coalition in Sierra Leone at the Swiss Hotel in Freetown. Admasana was there and she now reports.
Director of Disease Control and Prevention in the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, Dr. Samuel Smith, has revealed that they have made great progress in the fight against malaria. The vision, which is a malaria-free Sierra Leone, is now in a sight, and the media coalition is important to step in the journey to fight against malaria.
Great honor to have the opportunity today to be one of those to set the scene who are key components in the Zero Malaria Start with Me campaign at the launch of the media coalition. I would like to welcome all of you and invited guests to this August occasion with the aim to energize talented journalists who are reliably informed and coming from all the 16 districts in Sierra Leone. So there is an issue of equity, which is very relevant in our operations. And to create a platform through which journalists can collaborate and productively engage with the important societal issues that we are facing in the fight against a preventable and treatable disease called malaria. I want to begin by asserting that this occasion comes at a very significant time. Why is it significant? Though there are many reasons, perhaps I can pick just a few for the sake of time. First of all, as we all know, we had the MDGs before, Millennium Development Goals, that phased out December 31st, 2015, which provided a backbone for focused national and international interest in malaria. They were actually replaced by the SDGs that look to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all of the ages at the top line health goal. The sad reality of the recent outbreak of Ebola in West Africa have awakened an understanding that health and the health system spending cannot be assumed or taken for granted, particularly when faced with a shock of that nature, and has reinforced the need for a more holistic.
Giving an overview of the campaign, the program officer, Speak Up Africa, James Wallen, in his statement, said the Sierra Leone National Malaria Control Program, in collaboration with Speak Up Africa and Advocacy and Strategic Communication based in Senegal, will be leading the implementation of the campaign throughout 2020, which the pillars of the Zero Malaria Start With Me campaign is political engagement, private sector engagement, and community engagement.
Zero Malaria Starts With Me as a campaign also fully recognizes the importance of partnership and of collaboration. And really the core of the campaign is about engaging all sectors of society, from politicians to the private sector, to communities, to the media, to civil society, and creating new structures and platforms for people to come together and discuss how we can finally put an end to malaria.
The national coordinator of the Health Reporters Network, Swallow Uvande, in a statement said, with the new knowledge and recent information about malaria and the Zero Malaria Starts With Me campaign, as well as a platform to work with and support other journalists, the members of the coalition feel empowered to provide journalism that make a real impact in the fight against mosquitoes' deadly bites.
Has its motto as better health through media, which tells you that we care about the health of Sierra Leone and we are willing to give our best in ensuring that we have a better health system.
For Star TV News in Freetown, I am Adma Samai reporting.
Many thanks to Adma Samai for putting that report together. You're still watching the Star Good Morning Show here on Star Television Network on Channel 21. You can send us a text message to the number 077-844-636, 077-844-636, or you can still watch us on YouTube, Star TV Channel 21. With us in the studio is Commissioner, well, the titles are so much, Commissioner Reverend Father Victor Suma. He's here to talk about the activities of IMC. Many people already believe that the media is so powerful, but again, the media has to be regulated. And what is the mandate of IMC in all of these? With us in the studio again is Dr. Commissioner Victor Suma. Welcome to the program, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
We have a lot to talk about, and what are some of the mandates of IMC? But again, if you look at the views of people in the streets of Freetown, they'll tell you that they hardly see the work of IMC being visible. Let's start to lay the foundation blocks. What are the activities or the mandates of IMC in regulating the media?
Well, in a democratic dispensation, the media is paramount and the media is important. Why? And the media is important to report on everything that happens within the state. However, there are bound to be excesses. People are bound to step out of their, I could say, fair play. And that's why you need an independent media commission. And every word there is carefully chosen. An independent media commission. That is not a result of political pressure. That is not a result of any other pressure other than the fact that we want the media to operate in a democratic space that is theirs. And they have it. Now, what's our core mandate? Our core mandate is to what? To monitor, to regulate the media, and to help it practice best standards, international standards, and be professional in the dispensation of its duties. So, with the stick, we sometimes punish media houses that default. Sometimes we fine them. And when need be, sometimes, as today, it's the right date I could say, we give awards to deserving journalists. Today at 12 o'clock, we will launch our media award. Okay. And so that we give all the conditionalities, let's say the criterion, so that journalists could apply, table their products, and eventually be giving awards. So that's basically in a nutshell that's our core mandate. First, to monitor the media, to regulate it, and also to help it move towards professional standards.
Commissioner, for all you know, now you mentioned some of your activities in making sure the media has been monitored. But again, one might be tempted to ask, how effective is this monitoring responsibility? Taking into cognizance, first, for some people, the IMC could be very much effective. And for some people, they could describe the IMC with utmost respect as a toothless bulldog. How effective are the responsibilities of IMC in regulating the affairs of journalists? Taking into cognizance what has been happening all over the place with journalists being arrested and all.
Well, I appreciate, and then the views are there, and people have for a long been calling the IMC a toothless bulldog. We appreciate the angles from which they come from. That is, to some extent, they perceive the IMC as what? A political outfit, or people who have been put there at the behest of political leaders, and as a matter of fact, they just have to do the bidding of their masters. That's why I say there is a history towards it, and so therefore I do not judge much their thing. But at least I ask them to take a different look at the IMC from this point of view. In the sense, the composition tells you it is made up of professionals. That is, legal experts are there, experts in the media are there, experts in telecom are there, and it's a carefully chosen team. Carefully chosen team in the sense it's meant to be professional and carry out its mandate professionally. And if the media could remember, one of the promises President Bio gave was, I will never interfere with the work of the IMC. And I must say to a large extent he has maintained that. But come to the brass tacks of things, IMC, like many other statutory bodies, has been struggling with what? Resources to meet up to its mandate. In the sense, it's a national office. And being a national office, it must have the capacity to have outreach. It must have the capacity to reach the four corners of the country and really carry out its mandate fully. But then funding problems are there, personnel problems are there, and there was a moratorium, I could say, on recruiting more staff. And as it stands, we have an office in Bo that is covering for both the south and the east. And then we have an office in McKinney that is covering from both the north and the northwest. And there are times big challenges are there, in the sense we want to expand our staff, but we do not have the means. We want to expand our outreach, we do not have the means. And of course, we need a lot of capacity building. So these are basic problems we contend with. Notwithstanding that, since the new IMC board came into effect, we've been trying to at least leverage a lot of things, change the landscape, empower our staff, because you make do with what you have, while repeatedly you go, or let's say you plead with government to increase your capacity, to increase your ability to optimize your goals. But as it stands, we're still working towards that, in the sense budgetary allocations are budgetary allocations. Okay. When the year is over, or the year is about to end, you normally start lobbying to increase, because when your budgetary allocations are increased, there you have the ability to also increase your activities. But apart from that also, we've been partnering with other bodies, the UNDP and other agencies. So the shortfall, I could say, in funding that may come from the government, you could augment from other areas to see that your capacity is increased. So when your capacity is increased, then you could talk of optimizing your abilities to carry out your mandate in the best way possible.
Dr. Suma, we'll come to talk about the challenges of the IMC. But again, it is no secret that the composition of the IMC is very unique. Wherein we have people with legal backgrounds, people experts in telecommunications, experts in the media, like yourself and other guys in the commission. But again, how best have you tried to ensure that these journalists are being capacitated, i.e. organizing seminars for them, teaching them the norms of journalism? We have the IMC Act, but I tell you, most of these journalists have not even gone through this act. So, I mean, how best will you try to learn the journalists, not to give them fish at all time, but again, show them how to fish? When we're not yearning to always receive case or complaint against journalists, but how best have we tried to ensure that these journalists are being trained in a press conference or in just general trainings from the IMC?
Well, in my short life, I had the opportunity to do a course in Switzerland, and it's remarkably one of the cleanest countries in the world. Okay, but I never had them do a pronouncement of National Cleaning Day. So now, my point is this: the more laws a society has, the more laws they are being repeated, is always a sign of a lack of civility within that particular polity. And that's one thing you and I have got to work towards. Too many laws are a sign that we have too many hooligans around, that we have too many uncivilized people around. So now, what are we saying? Move the media towards being professional. And that's a big challenge, and it's a strong challenge, in the sense it's not so much IMC being the police going up and down. What we're encouraging is a media that takes up the onus of being professional, and so there will be no need of an IMC. However, since we know that they are defaulters, since we know that they are lawbreakers, the IMC has to exist to regulate the landscape.
But coming back to your question, to integrity or self-esteem?
It could be, but then coming back to your question before I answer to that addendum. Now, we have been organizing seminars around targeting key issues that as a matter of research we discover are lacking within the media landscape. One of those things that we think is a big problem is basic management of resources. Now, you go to a radio station where the radio station manager is the finance man, he's the announcer, he's the manager, he's the man in charge of this, in charge of that. And so the pittance that comes, let's say from obituaries and this, he comes, puts it in the front pocket, in the back pocket, and there is no system within there. To whom does he account? It's difficult to tell. Is he paying anybody? It's difficult to tell, and there's total confusion there. So one of the things we've been doing is what? Organized training for managers, organized training for editors, on really managing the resources that are there. It may be small, but if you show credibility, if you show a level of honesty, and if you show a level of consistency in managing those resources, you'll be attracting more funds, you'll be attracting more resources. And so we've been organizing trainings for management. Also on editorial policy, we've been organizing training right around the country. And so these are big challenges. But lately, we've been going around to meet the media on core issues, because now the media is what? We've reached a threshold that it's key in our country's history. That is the repeal of the criminal libel law, which is being talked about, which is being clamored here and there. But no matter what you say, you have people on opposing sides of the spectrum of this argument. And there are some who say, the day you repeal the criminal libel law, you usher in total chaos in the media. Journalists will write, slander, and do whatever they want because now they see they have a newfound freedom. That is one spectrum of the argument. We respect their views. On the other side, you have people who say, give them this freedom, they will be responsible, they will handle it well. So now, of late, the IMC has been on a nationwide Meet the Media tour. So what are we doing? We're saying, yes, it's true, we are clamoring for this particular freedom, wherein Part 5 of the Public Order Act is going to be repealed, and to a large extent, at least from political statements, from commitments, and from real steps taking, you clearly see there's a political will, at least in this dispensation, to do that thing. But then comes the fears in the hands, perhaps even in the minds of those who are in parliament, to say, are they ready for it? Can they handle this particular freedom responsibly? So the IMC has been going around to test the waters with the media houses. And how are we testing the waters? We go to a media house and say, if you really want to be the watchdog of the government, let's see how much compliant are you in the law. In the first place, do you have an editorial policy? Do you have a staff list? Do you have a list of workers within your institution? Do you pay them the minimum wage? Do you pay NACIT for them? Do you pay returning tax? Do you pay pay? Basic statutory things that have nothing to do with the mandate of IMC. Okay. But at the same time, it's a way to say, if the media is now going to be responsible, at least start be responsible on those basic things.
Self-censorship.
Exactly. So that's really what we have been going around trying to, let's see. And as a matter of fact, put it this way, 90% of the media in Sierra Leone is very, very compliant. So that's kudos to the media in Sierra Leone. But you have that 10% that is troublesome, trouble givers. They are always the ones that are taken to the IMC. Constantly, they are the same faces. They do not change. Always be reported to the IMC for one infraction or another. So now, we're coming back to this particular body and reminding our constituents, the media, that it's time to shape up. If you say the government is not paying its workers, and you as a media house do not pay your workers above the minimum wage, then what are you saying? There's a lack of coherence here in the message, and therefore you lack credibility in this particular thing. Now, if a media house gives just an ID card to their worker and say, go and survive, what are you insinuating? What are you expecting there?
Irresponsible journalism.
One, they will be the ones extorting. Two, they will be serial blackmailers. And as a matter of fact, that's not the level of journalism we really want in Sierra Leone. We want something better, we want something higher. And so, beyond what IMC could do, we want to encourage journalists towards responsible journalism. What legacy do you want to leave? What pattern do you want to leave? What is it you want to be remembered for as a journalist? And that's what makes the difference. It's not the number of times you went to the prisons. It's not the number of times you were slandered people, or it's not the number of times you were called to defend cases in the IMC. No. It's a consistency in your message that eventually somebody recognizes you and say, that man is a professional in environmental reporting. That man is a professional, excuse me, in the sport reporting. That man is a professional, I could say, in his diction, in his ability to present, in his ability to handle the facts and present them in a very professional way. So as a matter of fact, you clearly see we are encouraging journalists to work towards professionalism. Now, when the minister in church, say for instance the preacher man in church, sees the four corners of his church filled to capacity, he thinks he's evangelizing the whole world. But then he forgets that it's only a fraction of the population that you still have to evangelize. A good bit of the people are still out. Equally, idem, I could say with the imam, if your mosque is filled, be reminded that that's just a fraction of what is outside there. I bring that analogy to the world of journalism here. You may be praised, you may be appreciated, you may have a large following, but don't forget, journalism does not stop here. Okay. Copy best practices elsewhere. Match up with the others. The Amampos and the others that have made history should be your icons. And so as a matter of fact, bring in the best of what they can offer you. And journalism takes, I could say, a turn in this country that will be enviable, that would be admirable, and everybody will flock towards it. So for me, that's the challenge we have towards journalists. So it's not a question of saying how many times we fine you, how many times we can call you to task. No, it's a call towards really being responsible for the actions. And that's what I think the entire repeal of the Part 5 of the Public Order Act is hinged on. If journalists can give that confidence that in repealing this law, they will act responsibly, all this, I could say, tardying, all this slowness in doing it would not really have come about, okay? So that's our point there.
Dr. Suma, it is a bold step to see the IMC going down to the provinces to talk to editors, to talk to station managers, to be responsible in doing their job. But do we foresee the nearest future of journalism to be that responsible profession after the Part 5 will have been repealed?
Well, I'm an optimist. I would say yes, in the sense it's a legal thing. That is, we are crossing one legal barrier to enter into another legal barrier. And it will be foolhardy on our part to think with the repeal of Part 5, there will be no longer other laws. As a matter of fact, if there is not the criminal law, there's the civil libel law. So as a matter of fact, it's important we know that it helps people, or it helps journalists to a large extent, when cases are brought through the IMC. Why? Because we aim at protecting journalists. That's why, in collaboration with SLAG, in collaboration with the MRCG, WIMSAL, and a host of media partners, even the UNDP, we create an atmosphere in which journalists are protected in their work. But at the same time, we ask journalists to know that the reputation of people, hard-earned reputation of people, must be respected. They have built it all through their life. Overnight, you cannot just crash into it and destroy it in one day. If they are 40, 50, 60 and it's destroyed, it takes them a whole lifetime to rebuild it. Sometimes they will never really rebuild it. And so therefore, it's two sides of the coin, wherein we do not encourage a situation wherein people can prey on journalists, manhandle them, and really beat them up. No. We will protect journalists to the last of our strength. But at the same time, we equally ask journalists, respect the profession in which you are. Follow the rules. Cross-check your stories. Be sure of what you put out. Because if you constantly have to retract your stories, if you constantly have to make apologies for publications you made or for stories you aired, it lessens your credibility in the market. And as a matter of fact, it's easier for a journalist to pay a fine than to retract a story. So that's why we say, play by the rules. Do things well. Don't go reckless. Don't just write because you want to write. Don't just fill papers with garbage, but do it professionally. And that brings me to the point wherein we want to start reminding our constituents, go for training. Because there is this tension sometimes, and to a large extent, put it this way, professional training in the media has just started in Sierra Leone. It's not a long time. And so who were those in it? For a long time, there have been people with no professional background in it. But kudos to them. They have held the fort. And some, by dint of sheer perseverance, by the fact that they have grown in it, they have become professionals in it, and they have done quite well. But then comes a moment now where you say, the media has to be a professional thing. Take a part in it, hone it well, and do it well. Because, come to think of it, the finance minister or the body of technocrats he has around him are professionals in the economy. And if you are a journalist with a gentleman's idea of the economy, if you go to interrogate him, to interview him, you're only going to be there what? An admirer or a spectator of that particular minister. And in all sectors of life, if we do not try to develop a special ability to report in them, we'll be onlookers or we'll be jokers around. In the sense, we make commentaries around things in which we are not really grounded. But if you master, say for instance, the rudiments of economic reporting, you can look at a budget and say, this is skewed up, this is not properly done, this could be improved in this and that. Equally, let's say a publication comes out from statistics office, but if you do not have the tools to handle it, as I say, you are only an onlooker there, you're only watching, but you do not have the tools to dissect, to go into it, and to hold the man to task in what it is. So that's why professionalism is important in all the sectors, in agriculture, in sports reporting, in economic reporting. So it's no longer journalism in general, okay?
That has to be
journalism now with
specialized reporting.
Exactly. It's important that you have specialized reporting, wherein you go into the details and you go into it professionally, and you give people the respect they deserve to listen to professional stuff and be enlightened by it. Not the common, I could say, ghetto talk or professional, let's say, attire-based discussions. No, we should be above that level of attire-based discussion of what people hear and there. Live and be professional in this particular thing. So that's what we are really goading our constituents towards.
You could agree with me that in making sure that IMC achieve its desired goals, it is not a one-man show. It has to do with collaboration with other entities. And most times, the activities of IMC are being misunderstood with NATCOM, with that of NATCOM. What is the relationship between IMC and NATCOM? How does these two entities work together to have a very fine, very fine journalistic environment?
Well, what are our constituent mandates? It's important you know IMC regulates the media. IMC regulates content within the media. And IMC gives license to media houses. So how does it work? When a radio station is about to be established, they table in all the applications, all their documentations. And as a matter of fact, when that is tabled, a body sits and does the inspections of all the parameters that are put there. And when they pass the test of all the benchmarks given there, what happens? We then forward those recommendations to NATCOM. NATCOM's mandate is what? To give the spectrum. So if you are to get 98.1 or 98.2, it is NATCOM that determines the frequency you get. Why? It's important you know that as the western area stands, there's a lot of congestion there now when it comes to radio stations. So when people apply now for frequencies in Freetown for radio stations, they find it very difficult, if not impossible, because there's too much congestion of radio stations now in Freetown. But when you go towards the hinterland, I could say towards the provinces, it's much easier to have your licenses. And there are times that has to be taken into consideration. In the sense, there's too much jamming and there are many problems there. But coming back to your question, IMC is there to regulate the media and to regulate its content, while NATCOM is there to provide the spectrum or the frequency. However, there are times when there isn't really collaboration between the two bodies, and that has been causing a lot of problems here and there. We admit that, and then we have to work a lot towards clarifying at least those bottlenecks in administrative procedures.
Okay, continue to stay with us. He is Commissioner Suma. He is one of the commissioners for IMC, as we're discussing about the activities of IMC and some of their challenges. We'll go in for our next insert this morning. Now, as the leadership of Legal Link and Citizen Advocacy Network, at a joint news conference, recommends some action points to address the spate of lawlessness and discipline across the country. Ibrahim Foster, the father of Ali Foster, who was allegedly shot at the residence of Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Lai Lawrence Lima, has called on government and other organizations to ensure justice and get support to his economic livelihood, as Ali Foster is the only breadwinner of the family. He made this call at a joint news conference organized by Legal Link and CAN on February 10, 2020, at SLAD headquarters in Freetown. Adma Samai now reports.
The Legal Link and Citizens Advocacy Network, two leading civil society organizations working for the advancement of the rule of law, democracy, and human rights in Sierra Leone, are deeply concerned over the increased pace of violence and lawlessness in the country since the beginning of 2020 calendar year. The Executive Director, Legal Link, Lawyer Rashid, went further to highlight a few scenarios of violence happenings that have been taking place in the country since the beginning of 2020.
Majority of Sierra Leoneans interviewed by us are particularly worried over this ugly state of affairs, which is seemingly becoming the new normal. In his address to Parliament, as well as his party manifesto, His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio made a clear commitment to curbing down corruption, indiscipline, and lawlessness in the country during his tenure in office. No doubt, while it may be true to say that a great deal of effort has been made to tackle corruption in the country under His Excellency's watch, the same cannot be true for lawlessness and indiscipline. As a matter of fact, the spate of violence and lawlessness seem to be increasing at a geometric progression. Listed below are a few scenarios of violent happenings that have taken place in the country since the beginning of the 2020 calendar year. 1. Political violence clash between APC and SLP supporters at Anabeka State. On the 16th of January 2020, during a funeral procession of a late SLP supporter at Anabeka State, violent clashes occurred between supporters of SLPP and APC, which resulted to unrest in that vicinity. Aside the collateral damage that ensued, several people were stabbed and seriously injured. A 55-year-old woman and sister of a paramount chief, Melrose Berry, was gang raped by 15 men, allegedly members of the Poor Society. It is alleged that they went into her house and dragged her outside, where she was violently raped by these men. She is currently admitted at the Aberdeen Women's Center and in critical condition. 5. High-handedness of security personnel attached to Honorable Lai Lawrence Lima, Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs. On Saturday, 1st February 2020, police personnel attached to the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Honorable Lai Lawrence Lima, shot a man by the name of Ali Foster in the foot, claiming self-defense.
In order to deal with this ugly state of affairs and to permanently give a deadly blow to the cause of violence and lawlessness in the country, CAN and Legal Link strongly recommend the following.
In order to deal with this ugly state of affairs and to permanently give a deadly blow to the scourge of violence and lawlessness in the country, we have strongly recommended the following. 1. That perpetrators of violence and lawlessness be dealt with according to the law and not as APC or SLPP members. 2. That political parties, especially SDP and APC, should take deliberate steps to do away with the different thug groups that are hosted at their respective offices. 3. That President Bio and his government should do more in a bid to ensure a cohesive and peaceful state. 4. That deliberate and conscientious efforts be made in holding cross-party engagements in minimizing tension and tackling the menace of violence in our society.
The father of Ali Foster, Ibrahim Foster, however, called on the government, including some philanthropist organizations, to come to his aid.
The shooter on the left leg damaged the bone. So they blame me for that, let them cut his shooter. But I say no, let them still maintain, let them mend this litigation. So, past day before yesterday, we are go meet we are kind of award and say it will come up. It's possible for me and the small one day. See? So I got for baby people and then go home and Mr. Therefore come back. See? So I the big is some young people. These are the other organizations. Let them look inside this list. Let them take from me. I don't get. So, yeah, that's a small talk I make for us.
For Star TV News in Freetown, I am Admiral Samai reporting.
Many thanks to Admiral Samai for putting that report together. Well, we hope authorities concerned could listen to what Rashid have said and put them to practice to have a very peaceful country. We still have in the studios Commissioner Suma. He's one of the commissioners for IMC, as we're discussing issues in relation to the activities, their work and mandates of the Independent Media Commission to have a very effective media landscape in our country. Commissioner, welcome back to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Now let's talk about the tougher side of IMC. We've talked about their mandates and of course their responsibility. Now let's talk about how does IMC receive complaints. How are those complaints processed to have a resolution, either to fine or to ask for its action, as the case may be?
Redress mechanisms are there within the IMC in the sense people who feel aggrieved write sometimes officially, and then there is what you call the complaints committee that meets every Tuesday, and it's the overworked committee of that particular commission. In the sense, every Tuesday it meets to review cases of people who feel they are aggrieved. Points of being aggrieved could be what? One, in the print media, that I felt a particular article went against my name, my reputation, or against my association or my organization. Okay, that could be one. In other cases, it could also be from the print, I could say the electronic media, in which a particular radio broadcast or television broadcast didn't augur well with somebody, and so he files a complaint to the IMC, and therefore we look into it. So now, the IMC is made up of legal experts. At least we have 2 lawyers who have the competency to be High Court judges. And so therefore, that really puts us in a pole position there to judge those cases on their merits. So what happens? We call parties involved, we ask them to explain their grievances, and we ask others to defend. Now, when the cases are brought before us, we clearly try to define if the case is within our mandate to judge. Say, for instance, there was an instance in which somebody brought to the IMC that a particular somebody was discriminating against them. because of dreadlocks in school and not dreadlocks in school. In the sense, somebody brought an issue that his son was not admitted to a school because the son had dreadlocks. We watched into that and said, fine, as good as the thing may be, but it's not within our mandate to judge this one. We leave it. Strictly what is within our mandate is what we really come to terms with, is what we really judge. Now, defamation, cases of libel, cases in which we know somebody has gone outside the fact of its home mandate. So now we have different ways of arbitration. First is within our setting there, we ask people to admit if they think they have gone wrong. So within there, if somebody feels he's really gone wrong, he could apologize there. And there and then we could find a way to redress that particular thing. That is one way. Or another way is what? If we find you guilty or find you wanting in the way you've done certain things, we could warn you verbally. We could also ask you to retract your stories, and then it could be, say for instance, if you prominently defamed a particular Mr. X, go and give the same prominence, retract your story, apologize, and then the story is done. Another way also is what? We could also ask you to pay a particular fine. And normally our fines are not that big, but at least it's important you know that there is a penalty to it. If it's so grave, you could be asked to stop broadcast as a radio station or publication as a newspaper, or let's say even as a television station. Because, say for instance, if it borders on safety, if it borders on the security of people, if it's of grave public concern, you could be asked to suspend your services until the case is gone into. So basically these are the range of I could say measures we take to monitor, to regulate the media.
Okay, so do you feel like most of your work in censoring the media has been redundant, taking into consideration some of the political interference into taking actions against journalists? We've seen in many cases where journalists have been arrested directly from order from above or from the police, wherein they should be reported to the IMC, and the IMC invite journalists, but we've seen on the reverse. Could that be seen as deep redundant in your activities in censoring the media?
Well, nobody wins the war, and any politician worth his salt knows he does not win the war when he goes against the media. Because no matter what you do, you want the media to be on your side. So if you win whatever strategic battle you have within your ministry, and then you lose the war with the media, you are equally losing, because that's the outlet that you need to cultivate so that at least there is positive image about you. Mistakes have been made, costly ones, and those concerned have been reprimanded or warned about certain extreme conditions or situations they took. But it's important you know the IMC is the right means through which journalists could be punished, journalists could be reprimanded, and journalists could be called to book. Because it's important you know, in a democratic dispensation, you cannot just pounce on journalists like that. You cannot just order their arrest like that. You have to follow the rules, you have to follow the laws. Otherwise, if you are that draconian in your measures, means there's something you're hiding. And so that's why it's always important that those things are kept in place, and then that the law is respected. And the media is such that it's powerful. You don't underestimate its power. And all you do is what? Cultivate a fondness for it and cultivate a liking for it, in which they can sell your message, they can sell your image well. Otherwise, when you wage a war with the media, that's the case with Trump, and that's the case with many other people. When you directly open confrontation with the press or with the media, what are you doing? You're undercutting your ability to sell your image well in society. So I wouldn't advise any well-meaning politician wanting to succeed to be waging wars with the media. That said, however, a good number of our, I could say brothers, because I'm also a journalist, could be reckless in the way they handle things. They do not follow the rules. They just want to publish and publish quick. And therefore, in the wanting to go that fast, what happens? They forget to cross-check their stories. And really, when you go back, it's more painful, as I was saying, and it's equally more humiliating to have to retract than to be fined. And so these are things you want to take into consideration. People say the IMC is a toothless bulldog. People say the IMC is one of those institutions where there's too much political interference.
Yeah.
But I must remind you, the dispensation that we have today is totally different. In the sense, the president promised that I will have no interference with the IMC. And to the best of my knowledge, to the best of my ability, he has maintained that one. In the sense, he's given the mandate to a professional battery of people, and he has left us to operate within that space. And I must say, that's going on very well.
The IMC Code of Practice primarily talk about the traditional media, i.e. the electronics and the print media, and we see the uprising of the social media. It has some positive impact to our life, but again, it has some negative impact that has to do with having some information that are not of importance or that creates chaos in our country. So, is it within the mandate or the pivot of the IMC to regulate social media?
Well, you operate within the mandate that is given to you, and as you rightly said, within that particular act there, that is, I could say in some way obsolete, it does not cover social media. And so that's why we've been clamoring for what? A repeal, an improvement in our mandate. But then, come to think of it, social media comes as a totally different animal within the landscape. In the sense, it revolutionizes everything. That is, the speed with which news arrives to us is phenomenal. Before, with traditional means, it took time for journalists to gather their means, perhaps telephone, perhaps through wires and communicate. And eventually, it was easy for censorship. It was easy for censorship. But now with the traditional media, anybody can post anything there and you cannot really censor it. So that's the biggest challenge of the social media. Now coming back to your question, it is not within our mandate to censor the social media. Maybe one day with amendments in our act, with improvements in it, it will come to it. But it's important, the act as it stands covers only traditional media for now.
So, in fact, I've been signaled by my technicians to round up now. But again, I'm asking these questions not as a commissioner, but again as a media guru in our country. Are we hoping to see the field of journalism, to see professionals, journalists yearning to go study journalism?
They must, because the world is moving towards what you call professionalism on all levels. Before, you used to have a medical doctor that will do all the operations. Will do for the throat, will do appendicitis, will do this, will do that. Say, for instance, in Kabbalah or wherever, he's the expert there. He does every kind of surgery. Today, there are specialized things in everything. In the sense, throat and ear specialist is there. Okay. Gynecologists are coming. So also in the media. Print specialists are there. Broadcast specialists are there. And even within the broadcast journalism, there are splinters of specializations. Reporters cannot report on everything. Otherwise, you become a jack of all trades, a master of none, and a dabbler in this and that. And at the end of the day, you're offering nothing to anybody. Rather, hone a skill. Be professional in something. It doesn't cost you to go back to school to learn statistical analysis to be able to analyze data well. It will not cost you anything to go perhaps do a refresher course in economics. Come back and be in a pole position to be able to analyze and do economic reporting. Small things, sometimes even on YouTube, but find whatever means there is to always improve. The dictum, there is a diction that says, whatever is not growing is dying. And whoever does not take the challenge to improve himself professionally becomes mediocre in his own field. And mediocrity comes not by choice, but by the fact that you choose not to improve yourself again. And it comes from just two simple Latin words, medius, which means in the middle, and ocris, which means an old hill. If you climb the hill in the middle and cannot reach the summit, you have as much distance to go to the top, as much distance to come down. It's your choice now. Go to the top and get the satisfaction that I am a professional, I'm an expert in this, rather to just reach the middle and you have not really honed what you should do. So I challenge my constituents, my journalists, I challenge everybody, don't be a mediocre in this trade. Work towards excellence and work towards being the best.
That is the watchword, don't be a mediocre in this trade. But just very finally, what impact will this countrywide tour being done by the MC create to the media landscape in Sierra Leone?
It's important. We're testing the waters. We're testing compliance. Don't be on the throats of the government trying to ask for this, for that, while within our house, we have not yet put our house in order. Are you paying NACIT for your workers? Are you paying them the minimum wage required? Are you respecting their rights? Do you have an organized set of information? Editorial policies are there. They are the basic things we are asking around. And don't forget, we want to remind you all, today at 12 noon, there is the launching of the IMC Awards. Because it's important, we're not only there to punish, we're not only there to regulate, we're equally there to recognize people who have worked hard. And so the criteria will be spelled out, and those who want to apply, you apply. And eventually, in a very prestigious setting, you will be recognized for the good work you are doing, whatever corner you find yourself in.
Okay, many thanks to you for your invitation. He is, of course, one of the Commissioner Suma of the Independent Media Commission. We are discussing about their mandates, their duties in regulating media in our country. Elisa Adego, the coordinator of the Good Morning Show here on Star TV, Channel 21. Our inspirational quote for today is from Jim Morrison, who once asserted that whosoever controls the media controls the mind. This shows how powerful media is. I want to say many thanks to our engineers in the studio by Davis Kaloko and of course Duraman Samura for being there, making sure this show has been a success. I've been a presenter, Hassan Kurma Tata, and have a wonderful day.
This is Star Television on Channel 21 and welcome to the National News Bulletin. I am Leonora Jawara and these are the top stories making the headlines. As the leadership of the Legal Link and Citizen Advocacy Network recommends some action point to address the spate of lawlessness and indiscipline across the country, Ibrahim Foster, the father of Ali Foster, was allegedly shot at the residence of the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Lai Lawrence Lima, has called on governments and other philanthropic organizations to ensure justice and render support to his economic livelihood.
And the big is so we have to either the other organizations, let them look inside this list. Let them take from me. I don't get. So, yeah, that's
The government of Sierra Leone, through the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, in partnership with African Union, Speak Up Africa, and Partnership to End Malaria, has officially launched the Zero Malaria Start With Me Media Coalition in Sierra Leone at the Swiss Hotel in Freetown.
Great honor to have the opportunity today to be one of those to set the scene who are key components in the Zero Malaria Start With Me campaign at the launch of the media coalition. I would like to welcome all of you and invited guests to this August occasion with the aim to energize talented journalists who are reliably informed are coming from all the 16 districts in Sierra Leone. So there is an issue of equity, which is very relevant in our operations.
Center for Community Empowerment and Transformation Organization has provided scholarships to vulnerable school-going girls in Bombe Chiefdom.
About 478 girls in a school when a Center for Community Empowerment they pay for them. When the free education begin, now they pay. Now the free education they give the uniforms. And that way we don't go through the process because if you capture you from the first stage, GSS1, we take you through to SS till you finish. And now we don't do well, we don't get WASC. We don't already begin for support at university level. We get a girl who do accounting at IPAM. We get one brilliant about who do medicine at Frobe College. Then we get about 4 other girls within a institution for do nursing. Then we don't sponsor 12 more boys and girls to mix them. 12 of them, 6 boys, 6 girls, for good at a new technical vocation where government said now.
The founder and chief executive officer of the Shalom Water Company, Victor Hamusa Kagbo, has said that the establishment of the water company is not only to provide purified water for the Congo Town community, but to address the issue of unemployment among youths through job creation.
Indicates this one today because we don't start in 2014. We'll never get a gathering like this and put God before. Make we decide this term. All this term will be not the first on me. Make we decide, say, this term, we need to forget a branch. This will be the rebirth of Shalom. Make God be before. And I choose the location for the rebirth of Shalom. We na Congo Tong begin. Don't have number 1 main road Congo Tong, Nadia born, Nadia men. Pamano, late Pamano. So if I don't go begin at the east, it better like come back to say born. For can shape the good road we get.
And in sports, the Sierra Leone Sport Association has held the maiden edition of the West African Football Union Senior Female Championship competition draw, with 8 countries set to compete in the competition. All these making the headlines. Let's get you the details now. As the leadership of the Legal Link and Citizen Advocacy Network recommend some action points to address the spate of lawlessness and indiscipline across the country, Ibrahim Foster, the father of Ali Foster, was allegedly shot at the residence of the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Lahai Lawrence Limo, has called on governments and other philanthropic organizations to ensure justice and render support to his economic livelihood, noting that his son is the only breadwinner in the family. Now, Ibrahim Foster made this call at a joint press conference organized by Legal Link and Citizen Advocacy Network on Monday, 10th February, at the SLAG headquarters in Freetown. Admaya Samai was there and she files in this report.
The Legal Link and Citizens Advocacy Network, two leading civil society organizations working for the advancement of the rule of law, democracy, and human rights in Sierra Leone, are deeply concerned over the increased pace of violence and lawlessness in the country since the beginning of 2020 calendar year. The Executive Director, Legal Link, Lawyer Rashid, went further to highlight a few scenarios of violence happenings that have been taking place in the country since the beginning of 2020.
Majority of Sierra Leoneans interviewed by us are particularly worried over this ugly state of affairs, which is seemingly becoming the new normal. In his address to Parliament, as well as his party manifesto, His Excellency President Julius Maada Bio made a clear commitment to curbing down corruption, indiscipline, and lawlessness in the country during his tenure in office. No doubt, while it may be true to say that a great deal of effort has been made to tackle corruption in the country under His Excellency's watch, the same cannot be true for lawlessness and indiscipline. As a matter of fact, the spread of violence and lawlessness seem to be increasing at a geometric progression. Listed below are a few scenarios of violent happenings that have taken place in the country since the beginning of the 2020 calendar year. 1. Political violence clash between APC and SLP supporters at Anabenga State. On the 16th of January 2020, during a funeral procession of a late SLP supporter at Anabenga State, violent clashes occurred between supporters of SLPP and APC, which resulted to unrest in that vicinity. Aside the collateral damage that ensued, several people were stabbed and seriously injured. A 55-year-old woman and sister of a Parawan chief, Melrose Berry, was gang raped by 15 men, allegedly members of the Power Society. It is alleged that they went into her house and dragged her outside, where she was violently raped by these men. She is currently admitted at the Aberdeen Women's Center and in critical condition. 5. High-handedness of security personnel attached to Honorable Lahai Florence Lehman, Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs. On Saturday, 1st February 2020, police personnel attached to the Deputy Minister of Internal Affairs, Honorable Lahai Florence Lehman, shot a man by the name of Ali Foster in the foot, claiming self-defense.
In order to deal with this ugly state of affairs and to permanently give a deadly blow to the cause of violence and lawlessness in the country, can a Legal Link strongly recommend the following?
In order to deal with this ugly state of affairs and to permanently give a deadly blow to the scourge of violence and lawlessness in the country, we have strongly recommended the following. 1. That perpetrators of violence and lawlessness be dealt with according to the law and not as APC or SLPP members. 2. That political parties, especially SDP and APC, should take deliberate steps to do away with the different thug groups that are hosted at their respective offices. 3. That President Bio and his government should do more in a bid to ensure a cohesive and peaceful state. 4. That deliberate and conscientious efforts be made in holding cross-party engagements in minimizing tension and tackling the menace of violence in our society.
The father of Ali Foster, Ibrahim Foster, however, called on the government, including some philanthropist organizations, to come to his aid.
The shooter on the left leg damaged the bone. So they blame me for that, let them cut his foot here. But I say no, let them still maintain, let them mend this with us. So, past day before yesterday, we are go meet Bianca Award and say he will come up. It's possible for me and the small one there. See? So I got for baby people and then go home and give an aid the other organizations. Let them look inside this list. Let them take from me. I don't get. So, yeah, that's this one talk and next one for us.
For Star TV News in Freetown, I am Admiral Samai reporting.
The government of Sierra Leone, through the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, in partnership with African Union, Speak Up Africa, and Partnership to End Malaria, has officially launched the Zero Malaria Start With Me Media Coalition in Sierra Leone at the Swiss Hotel in Freetown. Admire Samai again reports.
The Director of Disease Control and Prevention in the Ministry of Health and Sanitation, Dr. Samuel Smith, has revealed that they have made great progress in the fight against malaria. The vision, which is a malaria-free Sierra Leone, is now in a sight, and the media coalition is important to step in the journey to fight against malaria.
Great honor to have the opportunity today to be one of those to set the scene who are key components in the Zero Malaria Start With Me campaign at the launch of the media coalition. I would like to welcome all of you and invited guests to this August occasion with the aim to energize talented journalists who are reliably informed are coming from all the 16 districts in Sierra Leone. So there is an issue of equity, which is very relevant in our operations. And to create a platform through which journalists can collaborate and productively engage with the important societal issues that we are facing in the fight against a preventable and treatable disease called malaria. I want to begin by asserting that this occasion comes at a very significant time. Why is it significant? Though there are many reasons, perhaps I can pick just a few for the sake of time. First of all, as we all know, we had the MDGs before, Millennium Development Goals, that phased out December 31st, 2015, which provided a backbone for focused national and international interest in malaria. They were actually replaced by the SDGs that look to ensure healthy lives and promote well-being for all of the ages at the top line health goal. The sad reality of the recent outbreak of Ebola in West Africa have reawakened an understanding that health and the health system spending cannot be assumed or taken for granted, particularly when faced with a shock of that nature, and has reinforced the need for a more holistic.
Giving an overview of the campaign, the program officer Speak Up Africa, James Swollen, in his statement said the Sierra Leone National Malaria Control Program, in collaboration with Speak Up Africa and Advocacy and Strategic Communication based in Senegal, will be leading the implementation of the campaign throughout 2020, which the pillars of the Zero Malaria Start With Me campaign is political engagement, private sector engagement, and community engagement.
Zero Malaria Starts With Me as a campaign also fully recognizes the importance of partnership and of collaboration. And really the core of the campaign is about engaging all sectors of society, from politicians to the private sector, to communities, to the media, to civil society, and creating new structures and platforms for people to come together and discuss how we can finally put an end to malaria.
The national coordinator of the Health Reporters Network, Swallow Uvande, in a statement said, with the new knowledge and recent information about malaria and the Zero Malaria Starts With Me campaign, as well as a platform to work with and support other journalists, the members of the coalition feel empowered to provide journalism that make a real impact in the fight against mosquitoes' deadly bites.
Has its motto as better health through media, which tells you that we care about the health of Sierra Leone and we are willing to give our best in ensuring that we have a better health system.
For Star TV News in Freetown, I am Admiral Samai reporting.
Center for Community Empowerment and Transformation Organization has provided scholarships to vulnerable school-going girls in Bombe Chiefdom. Now, the scholarship caters for junior secondary school up to university level. Andrew Bestman reports.
Center for Community Empowerment and Transformation Organization has been formed in the Bombe Chiefdom aimed at providing scholarship to vulnerable school-going girls in the chiefdom to acquire quality education starting from junior secondary school to university level. According to the founder and executive director of the organization, Honorable Paramount Chief Charles Coker, the organization was established to complement the efforts of the Ministry of Education to render support to the less privileged by paying tuition fees and ensure quality education in the chiefdom. He noted further that the organization has embarked on the planting of fast-growing crops and plantations aimed at sustaining the project that will support through the proceeds from those cash crops in the chiefdom.
Rightly, we talk just now about 478 girls in a school when a Center for Community Empowerment they pay for them. When the free education begin, now they pay. Now the free education they give the uniforms. And that way we don't go through the process because if you capture you from the first stage, GSS1, we take you through to SS till you finish. And that we don't do well, we don't get WASC, we don't already begin for support at university level. We get a girl who do accounting at IPAM, we get one brilliant about they do medicine at Frobe College, then we get about 4 other girls within a institution for do nursing. Then we don't sponsor 12 more boys and girls to mix them, 12 of them, 6 boys, 6 girls for go to a new technical vocation we government set na Moyamba. Target now for do 60 acres of mixed crops. As of date, we don't do about 50. So they plan for do another 10 if something more, but we target now 60. And then crops here we put inside the now coconut, orange, grapefruit, guava, pineapple, lime, pear, and avocado. All there and that chuchu plum that they will put inside it.
Honorable PC Charles Coker further revealed that the project has also involved an inland valley swamp farming, which, according to him, will also help to sustain the project when donors will not be providing support for the girls in the chiefdom, and call on other paramount chiefs across the country to emulate same.
Now we're there at the IVS. The IVS, all in all, what we don't develop, now about 8 acres. They do crop rotation there. During the rainy season proper, we plant fresh. After the rains don't do, we don't harvest, we plant other vegetables like pepper, this and that. Now one specialized in, what you call them, for multiply seeds. Now, because of that, we get this rice, now, so this so, sent to me. Now, here it become out, and it can and it lives there. So inside, say, let me bring and come back. So one multiply them, and therefore this is lot of get. Now 2 pounds will become. Oh, no, some, don't transplant that, this you don't give it. Now we go look at the other things that what they do. We have pepper and everything, okra. We also the plant say one uses swamp as a demonstration swamp for teach other small swamp holders how for developing a swamp. Since they will go develop and sell it out, they will come together and become big farmers in their own thing, and for support with education program, and at the same time for support management staff. Because we're not going to say we go have up and do not for can pay staff now. And this is the annual seasonal crops in this one. Every year we will get money. So we don't say every year we will for pay with staff. We don't depend on the main grant winner for school picking them. So we develop this one primarily for that, for take care of the staff and whatever support back into the program.
The project initiatives was born out of the desire to help the less privileged in society in furthering their education as encapsulated in the government agenda building the human capital in the country. Andrew Bestman reporting.
And you're still watching the news bulletin here on Star TV. Now, the founder and chief executive officer of the Shalom Water Company, Victor Hamos Akagbo, said that the establishment of the company is not only to provide purified water for the Congo Town community, but to address the issue of unemployment among youths through job creation. He made this statement while officially commissioning the company at Congo Town on Saturday, 8th February. Here is highlights of the occasion.
dedicate this one today because we don't start in 2014. We'll never get a gathering like this and put God before. Make we decide this term. All this term will be not the first on me. Make we decide, say, this term, we need to forget a branch. This will be the rebirth of Shalom. May God be before. And I choose the location for the rebirth of Shalom. Omina Congo Tong begin. Don't have number one main road Congo Tong, Nadia Bon, Nadia Men, Pamano, late Pamano. So if I don't go begin at the east, it better like come back to say Bon, or can shape the good road we get. Saving lives. Plenty for we no know. You see plenty of accident there, but waiting to happen inside there. Now you want to know waiting to happen inside there. So once you put an there, by the time they clean tomorrow, the different smell they get. The reason there, now because they fail for do the right thing. The right. But me, I committed in that we for do the right thing. If God save me, I need for save the other people. That these are the reasons make we go inside this business. I tell you, thank you.
So this one I invite you to come back today. I tell you thank you for the members say somebody did at this community when I did at the community. I pray that God will give them the community, they will give them the sales where they require sales where they need, and the people in the area them call upon them, they participate to them, and then they apply for buy so that the company will go from strength to strength.
What's it make when I come here? When I come here, we come open this place. It be a service to the community. This dream now a dream will come all the way to the east, where people in the east don't benefit from Shalom waters. And through the grace of God and the inspiration of the proprietor and the manager and the management, they decide to come to this spot. Let us take the blessing. I think say as an honorable member, we don't know what's in the happen inside Shalom. I think say I appreciate so much and what we come.
And to round up a news bulletin, let's turn attention to sport as the Sierra Leone Sport Association has held the maiden edition of the West African Football Union Senior Female Championship competition draw, with 8 countries set to compete in the competition. Our sports correspondent Tilton John has more for you.
Thanks to you, Leonard General. Welcome for today's sporting news. Indeed, the Sierra Leone Football Association, in collaboration with the West African Football Union, WAFU, has held the 2020 Women's Championship Draw competition that will kickstart the 25th of February 2020 in the southern region of Bo and also in the northern region, with 8 countries to compete in this competition. According to Jamie Bojano, who is the representative from the West African Football Union, said this competition helped to develop female football in Africa. Here is the report.
Mali, the smiling coast of the Gambia, I don't think they will allow us to cry. The Gambia, Liberia, and Guinea-Bissau. Thank you so much, ladies. Thank you so much. Just give it to me. Sierra Leone. So obviously, take out the other one. Mali, it's Group B. The next one. The one taken out here will go to Group A. For Sierra Leone's group. Cape Verde Islands.
The Sierra Leone Football Association, in collaboration with West African Football Union, WAFU, has held the 2020 Female Championship draw at Radisson Blu. 8 countries will compete in the maiden edition of West African Football Union Senior Women's Championship. The competition will kickstart on the 25th of February 2020 in the northern region of Sierra Leone and in the southern region of Bo. Jami Bojan is the representative from West African Football Union. He said this competition will help to develop female football in Africa.
It's part of our quarterly program to organize tournaments to develop and promote football. That is the main task we have from CAF. As a zonal union, that the onus lies on us to organize it. Now we feel that Madam Aisha Johansson is female president. Now is the only female president in Africa. We are organizing this tournament to celebrate the women of Africa, particularly our region, because there has never been a tournament for them. Now we are having very good tournaments, very good footballing national teams. So we have to organize tournaments for them. That's why we choose Sierra Leone.
A call on the government of Sierra Leone, the Football Association, corporate institution, to see how they will embrace this competition. Acting president of the Football Association, Brahma Mazola Kamara, said the president of the Sierra Leone Football Association, Aisha Johansson, who doubled as the head of female football, is on mission to develop female football in Africa. He said this is a big event that will help to develop the standard of female football in Sierra Leone.
In retrospect, this is the third time that Sierra Leone is hosting such a big event. But this one is very unique for the fact that we are hosting women's tournament. Therefore, it is a clear manifestation that Madam President is on a mission to develop female football.
Honorable Sidi Tunis, who is head of government business in the House of Parliament, said the government is ready to host this competition. He said this is a good development for the country.
Sierra Leone is ready to host this tournament. Sierra Leoneans are ready to welcome our sisters from West Africa.
In Spain, Deputy Director of Sports said the Ministry of Sports will give more support to this competition, more especially to see how female football will develop in Sierra Leone. He congratulates WAFU for giving Sierra Leone the opportunity to stage this competition. Various speakers make meaningful contribution towards the official draw of the West African Football Union Women's Championship that will kickstart the 25th of February 2020 in the northern region of Makeni and the southern region of Bo, and we end the 7th of March 2020 in Freetown. For Star TV Sports, I am Elton John reporting.
It is good Sierra Leone hosting an international competition, and Sierra Leone lies in Group A. We will be playing against Guinea in this competition, so wish them all the best. 8 countries will be competing in the maiden Women's Championship West African Football Union competition that will kickstart the 25th of February and end on the 7th of March. The Sierra Leone Taekwondo Association has concluded a 1-month clinic to see how they increase on the knowledge of the athlete and administrator. It's going to be conduct. They got some experts from China who gave a lot of lectures to the athletes in terms of training the sport itself at the Sheikh Stephen Stadium. According to Abubakar Jallo, who is the captain of the Sierra Leone Taekwondo Association, this will help to develop their knowledge, and for the president of the association, Ones Abayomi Johnson, said this will develop the discipline. Jallo explained more to Star Sports at the end of the 1-month training.
taekwondo na a sport. It was not any bad thing anyway. Na a sport. That's where they help you build up your mind, your body, then it gives self-discipline. Where the expectation is, one, the long run, one will represent the country. We are athletes. That's number one. Two, they help you follow, we get mental and stable. Health, they make you get good health. They will be physically fit by anything what they do in our activities.
I don't know how what to express about feel good and appreciate it. So I enjoy this time for me because I've been listening to West Africa. One of the recent training right now. We are appreciate. I've been listening to the guys there. They said for any other thing.
How many people will benefit from this training?
We got about 47 participants benefit. Between this time, on the school, we get a lot of people go to different schools. They will go teach them, show them, and we go to show. Well, the expectation one, I got to say, make them physically fit, make them get confidence in themselves, self-defense, get discipline in themselves. When they believe say they go to raise the flag of Sierra Leone, participate, go to any different competition and go and be the level for Sierra Leone. Like we talk about football, doesn't feel good, but they say they can do the same way.
Peace Cup training from Chinese experts to the Sierra Leone Taekwondo Association. We hope that the association will continue to get more development. Congratulations to the executive headed by Honest Abayomi Johnson. In the ongoing Sierra Leone Premier League, FC Calon Football Club secured a 4-0 victory against Central Parade. That was a massive explosion against Central Parade Football Club. And in the league, they are the only team without securing the win in the ongoing campaign. It's a bad run for Central Parade in the ongoing Sierra Leone Premier League. No single win for Central Parade. FC Calon secured a 4-0 victory. And also on Sunday, we saw Eastern Football Club against Yuan-Tin. It was a training encounter between either side. Both teams demonstrated good football. It all ended 0-0. That's all for sports for today's news.
And that's all in a Star News Bulletin file. Thank you so very much for watching. I am Leonora Jawara. Do stay with us if you can.
Star TV, tell your mama, tell your papa, Star TV, tell your sister, go tell your brother, Star TV, not forget your granny and your grandpa, Star TV, yeah, mama, 24/7, Star TV, for your games and sport, yeah, lele, advertisement, yeah, information, education, entertainment. Stay glued to Star TV, #1 TV na saloon. Oh, Star TV, it don't come for you and me. Star TV, see on channel 21, mama. Star TV, on channel 21, baba. Star TV, on channel 21, yeah. Star TV.
This is Star TV on channel 21. Stay glued.
The death is announced of Mr. Nana Osai, commonly known as Coach Nana, Basket Pekin, who died on Wednesday, the 22nd of January 2020, age 83.
He is survived by his wife, Mrs. Claudia Osai, children, grand and great-grandchildren, mother-in-law, Mrs. Rita Crown, brothers, sisters, brothers-in-law, sisters-in-law at home and abroad, relatives and friends at home and abroad, very close friends, Lydia Durin, Harolda Kamara, Prince Labi, and the entire Ghanaian community. Funeral service will be held on Tuesday, the 11th of February 2020 at St. Mark's Church, Lumley at 2:30 p.m. Burial will be at the Lumley Cemetery. The body will be laid out at number 6 Canigo Riverside Drive, Juba at 12:30 p.m. There will be no vigil. Meanwhile, sympathizers may contact the following numbers: 030-609-783 or 076-750-894.
One-year death anniversary in loving memory of the late Mr. Samuel Nehemiah James Morgan, commonly known as Young Boy, aged 95, who died on 10th February 2019 at number 12 Ogu Lane 2, Brookfields, Freetown. Though you are not present here with us, but your memory is stored in our minds. Rest peacefully in heaven. We can't touch you anymore, can't hear you, can't see you, but we feel you all the time because you are alive in our hearts. Rest in peace. This request is coming from the Morgan and Addo family at home and abroad. Continue to rest in perfect peace.
The death is announced of Mr. Tunde Basil Lionel Green of number 67 Pademba Road, formerly of 57 Lifety Boston Street, Freetown, age 54 years, staff of Media One Center. He is survived by his wife, Mrs. Marian Green of FIB Bank, daughter, Balisha Ayotunde Green, 3 sisters, Yvette, Princess and Mary, several aunties, uncles, nephews and nieces, grandchildren and friends. Funeral arrangements will be announced later. Sympathizers should call at number 67 Pademba Road, Freetown. May his soul rest in perfect peace.
The death is reported of Mrs. Elsie Enzu Williams, Nee Kamara, of 42 Lower Maxwell Street, Wellington, who passed away on Monday, 10th February 2020. She is survived by her children, Dr. Jude Enzu Williams of the Princess Christian Maternity Hospital in Freetown and Emilia Enzu Williams in the USA. Funeral arrangements will be announced later. Sympathizers may call at our residence at number 42 Lower Maxwell Street, Wellington, or on telephone numbers 076 804 600 or 030 547 421 or on 076 993 775. May her gentle soul rest in perfect peace.
The death is announced of Mr. Solomon Knox Sise, commonly called Pa Solo, at his residence, number 76A George Brook, Dwazak, Freetown. Pa Solo retired from the then Sierra Leone External Telecommunication at Water Street, Freetown. The sad event took place on Wednesday, 5th February 2020, age 88 years. He is survived by his daughter, Miss Frances Sise of number 76A George Brook, Dwazak, Freetown, 4 grandchildren and several great-grandchildren. Funeral arrangements will be announced later. For more information, sympathizers may call at number 76A George Brook, Dwazak, Freetown, or contact the following number: 078-855515, 078-417601, 076-323932, or 076-401488. May his soul rest in perfect peace, and God's almighty perpetual light shine upon him.
Inna lillahi wa inna ilaihi rajiun. The death is announced of Mr. Alassane Salifo, Procurement Management Specialist at the Smallholder Commercialization and Agro-Business Development Project, SCADEP, which death took place on the 8th February 2020 in Ghana, age 63 years. He is survived by his family in Ghana, staff of SCADEP, World Bank, and the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry. He has already been buried at Navrogo in Ghana. A book of condolence will be opened at the SCADEP office at 1F Scan Drive off Spur Road, Wilberforce, Freetown, from Tuesday 11th February to the 15th February 2020 from 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. May his soul rest in perfect peace.